Well, our next guest is an old friend of 21st Century Radio. Author and physicist Dr. Richard Alan Miller has been a leading authority in the fields of alternative agriculture, herbs, physics, and metaphysics for 40 years. His visionary work with alternative agriculture includes concepts like sustainability, intercropping, and forest farming. In the 1960s, Rick Miller formed protocols for the original Navy SEALs in the fields of parapsychology and paraphysics. He has written several best-selling books, including Modern Alchemist and several others, which we have discussed on previous editions of 21st Century Radio. He's joining us tonight to announce the release of his new book published with Nick Begich and Earth Pulse Press called ESP Induction Through Forms of Self-Hypnosis. We will also ask him for an update on his research into Cordyceps mushroom, a superfood he manufactures and sells through his Northwest Botanicals company, and which I've been taking every day since I learned about them in 2007. Now, if you are looking for a way to add more oxygen into your system and provide more energy to your day, I highly recommend this product. It certainly got me through repainting an entire mural, repainting an entire car, all within the period of about 4 months with no breaks in between. Well, I could say that's pretty good stuff. Welcome back to 21st Century Radio, Richard Alan Miller.
Hi.
What are you doing there, Richard?
I don't know what to say to something like that. Just hi.
Yeah, okay. Well, friends, as our listeners know, I haven't seen or read your new book, so tonight we are just briefly overviewing it, and you're going to be joining us again in the months to come after I've had a chance to read it. Richard, what would you like to tell us about your new book, ESP Induction Through Forms of Self-Hypnosis?
The model that we developed was for when the seal came to a fork in the road, do they go right or left? And they wanted a 10-second protocol that would give them like a 3 sigma error coefficient. That meant there was like a 99.975% probability that the event was correctly chosen. How do you do that? Well, we discovered that there was an altered state of consciousness very near the conscious state of awareness where your ability in guessing increases over 400 times from where you are in a normal place. That means that basically you could make decisions by simply going into an altered state and then coming up with an answer and acting on it. It worked.
Is this in any way similar to any other work that was being carried on at Institute of Noetic Sciences or with Robert John out there at Princeton?
Well, the Noetic Sciences, of course, that was started by Dr. Charles Muses is a really incredible organization, but their thrust and direction, I think, was a little different than the original intent. What we were trying to do was give our Navy SEAL an edge over common normal states of consciousness. And there were a number of different things that we developed, not just, being able to make a right decision with, a 99.975% probability. It's almost as if, and that's where we're going to go with my third book, that we're not really actually seeing reality as much as we're creating it.
I see. Have you read Dan Brown's latest book?
No, I haven't. Tell me about it.
Well, the reason why I'm just referring to it here is that he did bring up one of the things that I enjoyed about his book, dealt with his ideas in making sure that certain information was passed out in regards to Institute of Noetic Sciences and what they were doing there. This is the kind of stuff basically that the media, for some reason, always misinterprets or misquotes or ignores or puts down. One of those things, and that's the reason why.
There's a lot of biblical references to the possibility that this is not something that man wants to be pursuing. Rather than try to say that we're seeing into the future or we're soothsaying into the past, I would rather maybe suggest that what we're doing, that all the different altered states of consciousness that we were given to us for a purpose, and that purpose is for our evolution of consciousness, and that rather than finding a lot of these states to be taboo, maybe we would be better suited if we were able to see them more properly as, part of why we were given these altered states. Now, certainly, some places aren't very nice to hang out in. Paranoia and fear, places of doubt, is not a very comfortable place, but it also has its purpose and serves a useful function.
Well, let's backtrack a little bit and repeat. I just want to make sure I understand. How can you induce ESP through self-hypnosis? I'm
going to suggest that we're always in a state of hypnosis. That's by definition what we want to say. The fact that you're listening to my voice over, let's say, the engine of an automobile outside, you exclude many things in your conscious state trying to, focus on a given point of view. Now, what we really want to talk about is the depth of hypnosis, and there is a particular state of consciousness associated with the depth of hypnosis that allows you to make more proper guesses or be more close to reality than, let's say, where you are in a normal state right now. There are many references to that. A lot of the Indian tribes that survive under Hopi used to see dream states being more real, having more content than simply those states of consciousness, which were considered to be more of a dream than normal. Mm-hmm. And so to go into these states and be able to extract a decision-making, do I go right or left, and then going on that, the big question comes to mind, are we creating that reality or are we seeing it? And I think that the Bible's interpretation was that we, in some cases, wanted to try to control our reality. And in fact, it isn't that we're controlling it or seeing it or seeing into the future, having godlike powers, but really the brain can be seen as a four-dimensional hologram of five space. That means, theoretically, almost any kind of reality is potentially available from a perspective of where you're going to view what's going on from the brain. That means that our current movie that everybody is not very, happy with can be actually changed.
Do you, by the way, since I have not read your book, do you give clear exercises as to how to do this in your work?
Oh, yeah. There's the book itself has a number of guided images where they're meant specifically to take you down to that state of consciousness where the best guessing occurs, and then to bring you back up into a state where you can then act on it and do something about it.
Well, I see chapter titles like Brain Patterns and Biofeedback, Dream Studies and Self-Hypnosis, Relaxation and Self-Hypnosis, Remote Viewing and Self-Hypnosis, Belief Systems and Self-Hypnosis. Would you care to elaborate on one of these in our limited time tonight?
Oh, yeah, no problem. The ability to see and understand these different altered states of consciousness means that you need an understanding of what an altered state is really all about. And that's what we're about right now, trying to define that by biofeedback and other kinds of technologies that are used to measure these various states of consciousness. Biofeedback is good for measuring things like whether or not you're in an alpha state or a beta state or, even a delta state or there's different brain states of consciousness that are associated with hypnosis. But they are not totally related, and that's why the guided images are needed to take you into this place where you can at least have some kind of sense of what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. What kind of images are you talking about?
What do you mean exactly?
You said by using guided images. When you said
okay, well, when you're in an alpha state, you can't actually see things like chairs and people and faces. What you normally experience when you're in a light alpha state is colors and streaming, unrelated imaging, that you get with phosphenes or when you push your eyes push your fingers against your eyes and you have all these light colors that come out of your eye. That state is quite different in terms of the way the brain is processing, the way the brain is accessing memory. And it's believed that these different states, there is associated with them different places that you can do things that you cannot do where you are in this state. That's what the whole thing was about, is to be able to go do something that you can't do in a normal state of consciousness. That's what altered states are really all about. The government was doing studies back in the early 70s. They knew that certain mind alterants, like ketamine and telepathine or BZ, would cause, if a veteran were on it, it caused the changes of everyone around them, their reality change. How does that work? Nobody understood that it wasn't a contact high. There was something else going on that was very, very important. And we still have not yet actually gotten into detailed answers yet, but we're now getting closer and closer with the study of altered states of consciousness.
Well, we're going to take our final break of tonight's show. We'll be back with our guest, Richard Alan Miller. And our final guest of this hour is Dr. Richard Alan Miller. And he has a new book. I haven't read it yet, so that's why he's going to be rejoining us in the months to come, called ESP Induction Through Forms of Self-Hypnosis, published by Earth Pulse Press.
We have a website, part of the website. If you just go under books, it'll have a list of all the different books I've written. And hopefully, as I'm increasing, I've just switched over to Joomla, so I'm planning to have a number of other books, details. You know, like some of my books have gone through a number of different reprintings, and some of them are really interesting. You know, the Magical and Ritual Use of Herbs now has sold 197,000 copies.
Good Lord. And it couldn't come at a better time.
I know, it surprises me, too.
Yeah, it couldn't come at a better time, especially during this time period of the health conditions in this country. Before we run out of time, please tell our listeners about the Cordyceps mushroom and how your company, Northwest Botanicals, packages them for optimal consumption and what health effects they will notice when they start taking them regularly.
I was very lucky. My partner, Swan Gardner in Canada, he's been my partner now maybe 37 years, has ownership and is good friends with John Holliday. So we were given the distributorships for Canada. We have Canadian distribution. Now, the Cordyceps Sinensis, this year, the company has increased their productions to such an extent they're now producing in excess of 200,000 kilograms per month. That's unbelievable production. The hybrid form is like basically 5.4 times stronger than the forms that are normally either grown or cultivated by other people or even picked wildcrafted, and we're at the same price. Now, what that mushroom is about is polysaccharides. The polysaccharide is a huge, long sugar molecule with more than 100 oxygen molecules in it. And as the sugar molecule is broken down, the oxygen is released on a cellular level, and you simply can't get enough oxygen in your blood or on a cellular level like that. It's just probably got to be one of the best foods ever developed for men. It not only gets rid of cancer, because of course cancers can't exist in an oxygen-rich environment. It regulates blood sugars. It allows a number of different kinds of functions to happen that would not normally otherwise happen with the way the body is and the way the lungs are inefficient in terms of getting oxygen into the body on a cellular level.
So it obviously enhances physical stamina?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what the Russians used. They used the Cordyceps Sinensis as a way to win all their Olympic gold medals. And, of course, when they were tested for the drug, it was approved that it was basically a food and gave them extra benefits of being able to run faster, run longer, run harder, and maybe run just a little bit better than they might otherwise.
That's very interesting, because I remember that time period when there was such great controversy. It was either in the late 80s or the early 90s.
No, this was the most recent Olympic Games.
Oh, the more recent
They used the Cordyceps Sinensis in what they called Performax. Basically, they took all the different forms of Cordyceps militans. There are maybe 5 different species in that genus, and they combined them into food rather than doing what normally crews do, like with honey, that kind of thing, trying to enhance their performance during their competition, and it worked. It worked so well that now many of the various horse breeders are using it for their thoroughbreds to break records and to do things that weren't normally otherwise able to be done that way. They're using them in dogs, which is specifically for animals. If you're going to try to make the human healthy, you might as well also try to do the same thing for an animal.
Sure.
And that's what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
We have another product that we're now starting to develop where for racetrack horses and breeders to get where we take oats and we inoculate the oat with the mushroom so that when they're eating the oat, they're getting the mushroom as part of their diet. It works pretty good.
Yeah, I'll imagine it does. But there's a whole list of things here, the specific ailments. Does it assist in the area of problems with AIDS and HIV?
Well, there's clinical studies that are now showing that as an adjunct therapy, it can't hurt you at all. Mm-hmm. The only thing it can do is make things even better. Currently, the local domiciliaries here in the area are using it for hepatitis C. After 6 weeks of use, they're finding that there's no presence in most people's blood that would otherwise have hep C or something.
I see. Well, let me read this list real quickly so our listeners know this is an extraordinary thing here. Improves respiratory function, increases oxygen absorption, improves heart function, my God, helps maintain healthy cholesterol levels, improves liver function, improves kidney disease, reduces tumor size, assists symptoms of aging, protects against free radical damage, helps discomfort from tired legs. I guess that has something to do with horses, huh? Is that yeah. Improves sexual function, enhances immunity and T-cell function, reverses HIV. That's quite an extraordinary list there.
Well, yeah, the mushroom is a miracle thing. It actually gives you. I don't get sick anymore. I take quite a bit. It takes a while to build up, and that's the basic problem with it. A lot of people they think that if a little is good, a lot is better. And that's not necessarily true until the body can build up some kind of an immunity to being able to generate those proteins necessary to tear down the mushroom. And so what happens next is if you take too much of them, a lot of people might experience something like lower bowel problems or something related.
Well, I had that.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I had that problem in the beginning, but that worked itself out faster.
Well, basically, what you can do when Duncan, there's a really good article in Nexus magazine, not in the last issue of Nexus magazine, and it's also online for download on cordyceps as a true superfood. It basically gives the clinical studies and some of the other things that were developed around that to make this food so special like it is. But what I was going to say is that there are ways that this mushroom is, like, for example, Asia, right now, Coca-Cola Asia is using this cordyceps as a way to give you energy and speed over what they used to use, which was caffeine. Mm-hmm. Coca-Cola West here in North America does not do that yet because the market knowledge of this mushroom is fairly limited. People don't really know much about it here, whereas in Asia, the mushroom's been used for, maybe more than 200 years. It's everybody really quite familiar with it.
We have about 30 seconds left. What would you like to leave our listeners with before you can join us again in the months to come?
Well, yeah, what I'm planning to do this next year is offer a series of workshops around the ESP where I can take you into guided imageries and show you how to do this for yourself. Now, the second book, which is due out in February, I'm shooting for February right now, is called Power Tools for the 21st Century. This is part of a 3-book series that Nick Begich is putting together on the evolution toward the evolution of consciousness. Basically, the third book is titled The Non-Local Mind in a Holographic Universe. I'm basically going to show you how the body basically is like a battery where water and photons hitting water cause the concepts of cold fusion in the body, and how there are possible series of different kinds of things that you might want to consider doing and that were used.
We are out of time right now, Richard, and obviously we're looking forward to your joining us again so we can check into those matters. See you next week on 21st Century Radio with Zahara. 21st Century Radio is produced by Hieronimus and Company. Our executive producer and research assistant is Laura Kortner. Our engineer is Anita Brockington, and I'm Dr. Bob Hieronimus.